I must confess I'm in a mess with no place to turn to. Far from home, alone, what is a country girl to do? Ahoo!
Come along, kookaburras, smartly.
Come on, it's you two.
Myrtle, what is the matter?
Kookaburras were the best till you two showed up.
Ha, some joke. Shh. On my honour, I promise that I will do my best to do my duty to God and the King, to help other people at all times, to obey the guide law. That's good, girls.
Hurry up, they're beating us.
This isn't a race.
Shut up and hold that. Put it up. Watch out. How about getting it in for first? Oh!
Oh, dear. All right, now everybody back to work.
Oh, Grandma, it was wonderful. We practiced our knots. And we played basketball. Oh, you should have been there.
A bit past it, I think. Oh, good evening, monsieur.
Madame, Mrs. Watson, delivered to you safe and sound.
And a bit overexcited from the sound of it. Can I offer you a cup of tea?
No, thank you. We should press on.
We'll have one, won't we, Pix?
No, you won't. I don't want you up all night with nightmares. It's past your bedtime. Jimmy's been asleep for a good hour or more.
He's a little kid. We're girl guides.
Bed. Now, say good night to Marguerite and Mrs. Chevrier.
Grandma.
What's all the owing in aid of?
Oh, Grandma says...
How was it?
It was really good. Extra good. We made some friends, I think. They said goodbye to us and everything.
And I said good night to you. Off you go. Bed. You too, Anne.
Good night, Marguerite.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, monsieur. Thank you for taking us. Good night, Marguerite. Good night, Anne.
And how was pottery class?
Very nice, thank you. Are you having a cuppa?
I, too, have a young one to get home.
Oh, Papa.
Good night, ladies.
Good night, Monsieur Chevrier.
Some other time, perhaps.
Oh.
I warned you. I did. If he marries your Vera and takes them all back to France with him, you're going to be a very lonely old woman.
Oh, for goodness sake, Ethel.
Going alone into an empty house, knowing you won't sleep a wink. Oh, I get so frightened sometimes. All the creaking and groaning of a night. Oh.
Oh, I wish we had our guide uniforms. I want to start going for proficiency badges. Crikey, have you seen all the ones on Myrtle's sleeve? Some are not too difficult to get. You don't have to do much at all. I'd like to take a crack at that one where you stay out in the bush on your own and you've got to make a shelter out of leaves. Oh, that'd be awful. You'd be eaten alive by mosquitoes. And who knows what else at night in the bush? Oh, what's in the bush? Nothing. Snakes, swaggies. Swaggies don't bite. But to snakes run a mile. My dad was chased by a swaggy with a knife when he was little. Oh, that was in the olden days.
Hey, Molly.
Have a shot.
Oh, cripes, Lucy.
From here.
Go on. Let's see you. This end goes under that end, and then... Oh, no, don't. I've got it all wrong again.
I don't suppose any of you have seen Mrs. Watson's cat.
How's Hasn't he turned up yet, Mrs. Watson?
Oh, goodness knows where he is, Vera, dear. It's weird up at the house without him.
Now, don't start that again, Ethel. Mrs. Watson's worried her house might be haunted.
Crikey Moses. Real ghosts? Wow.
Sure's the lot of you.
There's no such thing.
Stop wriggling, Mum, or I'll pin you.
Have you really seen ghosts, Mrs. Watson?
Please stop it.
I can't say they're your actual ghosts. More sort of spectre.
Blimey.
Who's scared of silly old ghosts? Not me. I'll cop 'em with my bow and arrow.
That's our cord.
It's Grandma's, actually. I'll fix it for you in a minute, Jimmy.
Doors opening for no apparent reason.
Drafts, Mrs. Watson.
And bang and shut again. Curtains whispering and shadows. All with ulterior motives. Furniture moving about all by itself.
Poltergeist will do that. Move your furniture about.
Mother. Really, Vera? I'm always finding things in the wrong places. Vases getting broke. Explain that to me.
Could be the cat jumped up.
What cat? Oh, I'm terrified of being there by myself.
Could spend the night here, but we're a bit full up.
A guide helps others. We could spend the night at Mrs. Watson's, couldn't we, Pixie?
Well,
See what's going on, seeing as there's no such thing as ghosts.
Of course there isn't.
I could come too.
That's very nice of you girls, but it's really up to Mrs. Watson.
I get so lonely, especially with Eustace gone.
Is Eustace your husband?
Alfred was my husband. Eustace is my poor dear cat.
That's settled then. We'll walk you home tonight.
Here we are, girls.
Now, are you sure you're going to be comfy?
Positive, Mrs. Watson. Don't you worry about a thing, Mrs. Watson. We'll get to the bottom of all this.
Well, sleep tight. I'll see you in the morning.
What was that? Dunno. It was sort of there. A ghost wouldn't do that, would it? Nah. Truth. Who's there? What do you mean, who's there? Nobody's there. But I thought you're imagining things. Well, you heard it too. We're both imagining things. Was that you? What? Come on, Pixie, don't muck around.
I'm not.
Crikey, Moses, can you turn on the light? Something touched me on the foot. I thought it was you. No. Oh, what's that? Crikey, Moses. Where's her dopey cat when you need it? Anybody there? Moses. I think we better leave that door open. Can you hear that? Someone's walking about. Mrs. Watson's going to the... Crikey!
Do you think you might join us? Pixie Robertson!
Yes?
We were discussing the exploits of Marco Polo on the high road to China.
Yes, Miss Orick.
No, Miss Orick, we were not. In fact, we were talking of Sir Joseph Banks and his contribution to the world's knowledge of our flora and fauna. Molly!
Horace!
That will do. I beg your pardon.
I thought... Well, I mean... I don't...
Obviously, Sir Joseph and I seem to be wasting our time.
Yes, Miss Orick.
There's no such thing.
Well, that's what we thought. Now we're not so sure.
I've read heaps of books.
We know that, genius.
And according to almost every source, there's no such thing.
The mind plays tricks.
That's it. Somebody's playing tricks on you.
But who?
How would I know?
And how would they have done it?
Strings?
We would have seen strings. But in the dark, you would have... The lights were on. And the cupboard door kept opening all night. You should have seen it. Lily died when the picture fell off the wall.
We've got to get to the bottom of this. We can't have ghosts wandering around Wilsford like they own the place.
It's our duty as Girl Guides.
I'm not going anywhere near the place. I'll go.
What use would you be in a crisis?
I'm not scared.
Come on, we need a team. Who else?
What about you? You're doing all the organising. Scaredy cat.
I'm not. My mum wouldn't let me.
I'll go.
Good. That makes 4.
4?
Well, you two are going, aren't you?
I suppose so. It's a real spooky old house.
Oh, rubbish.
Oh, it is, Grandma. You've no idea.
It's a plain, ordinary house.
We're going again tonight.
Are you just?
And where are you going?
Up to Mrs. Watson's. I might see something.
You most certainly are not.
It's your turn to do these.
Oh, I want to see the ghosts.
Your mother's right. There's no such thing.
You should have been there. Then you'd change a tune.
That's enough, Molly.
Jimmy?
You can wash.
Washing the dishes ain't a man's work. Grandma, do I have to?
If people would stop moaning and get on with the job, they'd be finished in half the time.
Yo, it's bloomin' hot.
Does a man good to learn a bit of housekeeping?
I'm not sure you should go over there again on your own.
We're not going to be on our own. Louise and Esmeralda are coming too.
I don't know where poor Mrs. Watson's going to put you all.
We're Girl Guides. We can look after ourselves. My mum thinks we're a bit silly.
My dad always thinks I'm silly, so who cares?
We're helping her, not upsetting her. It's getting on Grandma's goat too. She thinks it's just because Mrs. Watson's old. Yeah, servile.
Huh?
Servile. You know, how old people go. Oh, you mean sterile. Ah. Are we going in or not?
This is very good of you girls.
No trouble, Mrs. Watson.
You haven't seen my Eustace over your way.
Oh, no. And just as well, my old man hates cats.
Your old man hates everything.
Goodness, don't you two look smart? What about your nighties?
Oh, we won't be sleeping. We're here to catch a ghost.
So you are. Well, good night then. I do wish my Eustace would come home.
Good night. Good night, Mrs. Watson.
Good night. Good night, Mrs. Watson.
Where did the picture fall down?
Over there.
You can see where the nail fell out.
Oh, it was pulled out. I'll turn the light off. Do we have to? Of course.
It's just the old house.
That sounded like chains.
There wasn't any chains last night.
Look!
That ghost got something about that sideboard.
Oh, God. I hate this.
Shh.
Strike a light.
It's only the wind.
It's pretty bloomin' spooky. Couldn't we leave the light on?
Pixie Molly.
There's something funny going on.
Not that funny. If it is Jimmy, I'll kill the little rat. You'll have to wait in line because I'm going to kill him first.
Then he'll really be a ghost. Couldn't have been him last night, though.
Pixie Molly.
I've got an idea. If we all run out screaming, then he won't know we're awake to him.
Eustace? Here, puss, 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 puss. Here, puss, puss.
We ought to bash him up.
Gladly.
Shh. I hear them coming.
I've never seen girls run so fast. Me neither. Talk about a laugh. We're girl guides and we can look after ourselves.
What about when your girl nearly sprung us?
No probs. Old Mrs. Watson couldn't even catch a cold. Wouldn't you just like to have seen the looks on their faces?
Oh, no, you wouldn't, Sonny Jim.
I brought all these bugs out of that wood heap.
Oh, not in his bed.
Too right.
Poor Jimmy, poor nothing. He's lucky we're just giving him a bit of a fright. See? You tie the string in the middle of the ruler, put the ruler behind his books, give the string a tug, and thump. Down they all come.
Gee, it's going to take him a month to get over all this. But how are we going to set it up without him seeing us?
Someone will have to keep him occupied.
While the rest of us do over his room.
I'll keep him occupied. I'll knock his block off.
His bows and arrows. I'll challenge him to a contest and I'll do him in like a dinner.
Treat.
go.
It's freezing.
Doesn't the little cow ever go to bed? That must be him.
Ready, everyone?
Rotten little bludger dog me with a book.
Quick march around to the kitchen, the lot of you. I never in my life heard of such goings-on. Ought to be ashamed of yourselves. You've got poor Mrs. Watson frightened half to death with all this wicked nonsense.
But...
Don't you interrupt, young lady. It's already a dose of the hearth-brush for the two of you. As for the rest of you, I don't know what you're planning to tell your parents, but I know jolly well what I'll be saying to them tomorrow morning. Now, off you go home, the lot of you, before I take to walloping you myself.
Sorry, Molly. Pixie.
Not your fault. No, it was all...
Shh! Go on, Louise. Off you go. If that's what they teach you at the Girl Guides, then I'm sorry I ever let the two of you go.
It was Jimmy.
No, Pixie.
Don't try and wriggle out of it.
We did it to pay him back for last night.
What?
He came over to Mrs. Watson's and he was making all sorts of ghost sounds and running up and down the hallway. Him, Fredo and Mick.
Really? Molly?
Tell her. I'm not in for dobbing.
Oh, I'll give you dobbing in a minute.
We were just trying to teach him a lesson.
Jimmy! And don't you two think that you're off the hook.
What a whacking. He deserved it. Gee, Grandma really did her block. You shouldn't have dobbed on him. Molly, why should we take the punishment for him? My brother does things like that. That's no excuse for him to frighten poor old Mrs. Watson. He didn't frighten Mrs. Watson, he frightened us. And what about the night before? He wasn't there then. We let our imaginations carry us away. Poor Jimmy. Fancy making him front up and apologise.
Off you go.
Mrs. Watson.
We're waiting.
Mrs. Watson.
Must get that cat fixed. It's been doing it for donkey's years.
Get on with it.
Mrs. Watson.
Struth! Eustace! Oh!
Oh, darling boy, where have you been? Oh, I did miss you so much.
From the country to the city, what a life for us sweet Missy. Growing up is full of strife, sugar and spice. How I long to be back home. Everyone leave me alone. Growing up is full of strife, sugar and spice. I bet they're in those open spaces having heaps of fun. While I'm spelling, multiplying, help me anyone. I must confess I'm in a mess with no place to turn to. Far from home, alone, what is a country girl to do? Ahoo!